So welcome to the 10th Town Hall of LD.
Good morning.
I really appreciate everyone being here. And this is a fantastic opportunity to get feedback. It's actually our 9th Town Hall, but feels like our 10th. And so there's an opportunity to just get feedback from all of you. So I really appreciate you being here. It seems like we have quite a few people here now. And now that we said everyone should show themselves, people are showing their video, it's feeling more and more like a conversation. And I appreciate that. This is our 9th Town Hall. And I'd like to start off our 9th Town Hall at LD with the little bit of a quote. So the quote is from Alan Watts. And the quote is, "Never pretend to a love which you do not actually feel, for love is not ours to command." So with the perspective of LD, don't pretend you love the system unless you actually do. And if you don't, tell us how we can fix it. So tell us how we can make the system better for you as talent, as developers. And so I really appreciate all of you here showing yourselves, giving us feedback. I want to thank you for this. So to start out, I wanted to bring up a few topics that we want to discuss today. So at this stage in our company, our main priorities are design, vetting, and marketing. Those are our top priorities. Now, maybe I'll just get a feedback from all of you. Could you either say you agree, or if you think there are other priorities that we should be thinking about beyond design, vetting, and marketing as a way to improve our talent network? Cool. So it sounds like we're in agreement that design, vetting, and marketing are our top priorities. So with that said, we are revamping our design, and we have some designs that are underway. Maybe some of you have noticed that our Find Talent page, where you can actually pretend to be a client and search for yourselves, has been redesigned, but we're working on the redesign of some of the other pages. Now, that being said, even if we redesign the entire site, it doesn't necessarily mean that the clients are getting exactly what they want. And so another request that we've started hearing from some of the clients is that they want more detailed vetting on the talent on our network. And they, in order to be able to trust our network, they want to come in and they want to find talent that is vetted across a number of different comprehensive categories. And so we wanted to propose an idea of all the different facets where we could actually vet developers and designers, and actually show you an idea for a web interface where we could present that data. So I'm going to show that to you now. And Gay, I appreciate you joining. I also appreciate you showing your camera. Kenneth, everyone, if you could show your video, that would be great. And thank you for joining this conversation. I'm going to share my screen now and show you an idea we had for how we might present data to clients on the vetting of our organization. So sharing. All right. So we can all take a look at this. And Anisha actually developed this. So I appreciate that. And so now, if you can look at this, you can see there are top skills, there are some reviews, but there's also some more detail in this. There's detail that clients have been asking for. Details like interview data on agile development, design patterns, things like whether the talent is not just good at communication, but whether they're empathetic to the users of the applications. Things like not just checking if their code passes tests, but also do they have complex logic, or is their code readable? Trying to categorize developers on a spectrum from syntax level understanding to deep code level architecture. Things at this level of detail we're trying to get because the clients are asking for that. Clients are asking for reference checks and background checks. And we also want to show off for the talent who have done lifelong learning what projects they've done. So I'd like you to take a look at this and tell us, is this the kind of thing that if we show on your profile, clients might be more interested? Or did you have some more ideas beyond this? And the idea is that if we show more data on our platforms profiles, then more clients will be interested in hiring. They'd find you online and they'd find your profiles. They'd see, wow, this is really comprehensive. I'm going to give it a shot, and more developers on LD will get hired then, which is our objective. So thank you, Ashley, for joining. Ashley is actually a client of LD. She's a fairly big customer of ours, and we really respect her feedback. She's given us excellent feedback over the last many months, and so we appreciate her business, her feedback. I want to thank Brian for joining as well. Brian has been a marketer with LD. He's spread the word of LD across social media, and so really thankful to all of you who have joined us. Thank you so many people for showing your camera. It's really nice to have you all in a conversation like this for us all to remember. So I'll just stop here and let anyone speak up if you have any feedback on this set of criterion.
Yeah, I think this is amazing personally. I think it's fine. For me, I have no problem in having this displayed on my profile. The only question I have is how do we get this? How do we process this information to summarize this way for each and every one of us?
Absolutely. That's a big concern of mine as well, which I was hoping to get ideas for, actually. So we will segue into that. But you think that these categories would be fairly comprehensive?
Yeah, I think they're comprehensive, but I think there are a lot to process at the same time. I think we should find a way to hide some of them by default, and the user could just the business or the client could just dig in for more information, because at the end of the whole day, with all this presented to the client, I think at the end of the whole day, he might actually miss out on maybe the key strength of the talent. So I think maybe we could have very different layouts that applies to certain categories of talent, so that to best portray you in that light. Because you could see someone who, when presented like this, it might be so comprehensive, and the client might feel this talent might not fit my needs, and in reality he might, just because he's overloaded with information at the same time. So that's another thing to consider.
It's a great point. So your point is you need to consider the talent themselves and what is the most appropriate metric to show on their particular profile.
Yeah.
And Mohammed had a great point as well, which was along the lines of, will the clients who visit our platform, many of them will be able to understand some of these criteria, but some of them may not be obvious to all the clients. So making sure that we consider the audience as well. I think was that your point, Mohammed? Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point.
Thank you. Yeah. Looks like we got another chat. So Ashley as a client is speaking. So Ashley writes, as a client, this looks like information overload. Perhaps have a smart show feature based on the search criteria, or have some of the details be hidden through drop-down windows, so the client can open the information as they need to avoid choice paralysis. So that's a fantastic idea. And can everyone hear me? Is everyone able to hear me? Good. I think Brian mentioned that he has some issues hearing me, but maybe it might be his audio. I'll check back with him afterwards. So yeah, I think that's a great point, Ashley. I appreciate that comment. I think that we'll have to create a design that is able to create a design that is able to surface the most important things based on the search criteria. I agree. Any more comments on this?
Yeah, I'd like to say this is a good job already. It looks clean, and so I think the journey from here isn't quite much.
Wonderful. So let's get into the meat of it. How are we actually going to collect this data is a big question. So I had a few ideas, and one of them, so I'll describe them briefly and then I'll get your ideas. So one of the ideas that I had was perhaps what we could do is we could actually conduct an interview that tests for design patterns, has a person go through a professional code base and identify the patterns in them, has a person complete some algorithms tests. We can bootstrap off of Leet Code or HackerRank or whatnot, or we could have people go to those websites, complete those coding challenges, maybe upload a video for peer review on LD. These are some of the ideas I was thinking about. But a few concerns is if we have it as an interviewer, we only have one interviewer, our admin, and we don't want to push human interviews to be more than half an hour. So we can't just host an hour and a half long interviews where we just do live coding challenges and design pattern challenges, and also questions that gauge logic and communication and creativity and entrepreneurial behavior and such. It gets quite intense. So then another idea was maybe what we could do is have a web interface where we sort of, and I'll do a very sophisticated drawing over here, but we would essentially do a web interface where we'd have a portal and we essentially have the talent go through a series of questions where maybe there'd be one question on design patterns, and then they would upload their video for how they solve that question. And then that video gets peer reviewed by other talent and then comes back. And then there'll be a question on software engineering where they solve a coding challenge and they upload their video of themselves solving the coding challenge. It gets posted in LD Engineers for peer review, and then they get approved for the next step. And that way we'll be able to create a crowdsourced system where we can actually collect all this data without depending on a manual interviewer doing all of this grading homework, essentially. And so that was the idea with this diagram here to reference. Love to get your feedback on how you, if you were designing our system, how would you collect all this data?
I don't know if I'm really talking to the question you're asking, but I'll just share something anyway. I think recently, in the last 1 year and a half, I think I've been in communities, really. And I think one thing I think I've discovered is that, people, different talents, appeal to clients based on their different experiences. So, so like there's a community I'm in, it's an Angular developer, and we do a lot of talks. Like people, like even if you're a beginner, you come on, you turn on your camera, you give a talk and explain something and stuff like that. And I think that way, that's something that a number of those kind of things can, or even the blog posts, like giving writing articles and stuff like that. So I think even a lot of articles and stuff can actually be a metric that could help a client make a decision. Because if you say you're a React developer and you have like 50 posts or more about React across different topics, I think, and you now have sample projects, I think it's a very big plus, to be honest, because some people get hired because, or get chosen because of even the way they speak. Some people because of the articles they've written, some people because of the project they've seen, and even sometimes the clients don't even know the technical competence, of that talent, really. So that's something else to think about, because I think genuinely, and it's amazing because I've seen people who came in and did not know anything about development, and within like a couple of months, because of they were giving talks and writing articles, they just became really good, and clients came in and trusted them and just wanted to hire them and stuff like that. So that's just some. I don't know if it addresses the question you're asking, but just wanted to share that.
I agree. I think that the way people communicate, the projects that they have, and the communication they have around that project really matters. And for instance, some of our talent have gotten hired by just doing lifelong learning projects, posting them on our blog, and the clients, they surface higher because they've done lifelong learning projects. And then the clients notice that, and they also see their writing and hire them based on their writing code combination. And so we're trying to surface some of that with the lifelong learning project under ongoing evaluation. But I think what you're saying overall makes a lot of sense that we should consider. I wanted to read a comment by Ashley that she wrote. So Ashley wrote, blinded peer-to-peer reviews, interviews as a question. For instance, Dev 1 goes through 3 double-blinded peer reviews and ranks the 3 peer reviews that need to have a certain inter-rater agreement. So I agree that if we were to have peer reviews, we would probably have 3 or so people, more than one person, review the interview. And another comment made by Ashley is, can any of the data be collected based on past client projects? For instance, Dev 1 can skip certain interviews by providing proof of work on past projects. At least for the devs on my team, I'm willing to sign an NDA if needed so that they can prove to LD their implementation of skills to get their LD profile validated accordingly. I think yeah, that's great. I think that we should essentially leverage all the data that we have already to produce values, meaningful values for these particular constraints that we're reporting on in this mockup. So yeah, thank you, Ashley. It's fantastic. So you're still able to see the diagram, right? Sounds good. So maybe I could run through some of the ideas that I was thinking about in terms of vetting, and I could get some of your feedback on that for our platform. So we were thinking about in terms of some of the behavioral questions. We're thinking about if any of you have been through LD interviews, there are a number of useful questions that are asked on software engineering process, on things like productivity and responsiveness, a lot of questions that could be phrased in terms of soft skill questions. We could have developers or designers, instead of just text answering, they could answer in text some of them, but maybe they could upload a video of themselves answering some of the questions so the client can see their soft skills, their ability to communicate, and then we could advertise those. So an example of a question is, for teamwork, an example of a question is, what's a time when you were wrong or another member of your team was correct? And thank you so many people for joining. I appreciate it. Tracy has been a new client of ours. We really appreciate her business. Olasoj has joined our meeting. Ayomide been with us. So many people have joined. Castro, our marketer, thank you. Everyone, thank you for joining. And for those of you showing your video, really appreciate it. We're trying to create a really vibrant culture at LD, so I appreciate you joining. So the topic we're talking about is the set of vetting data that we want to present clients to really show the top class nature of our developers and the world class nature of our developers. And so thank you, Ayomide. And so one of the things that we're wondering is, how do we actually collect this data? And so for that, maybe we could leverage some of the suggested interview questions and let talent actually upload their answers so clients can see on their profile. For instance, one of the questions being, another question is, what's your approach to time estimation? And what's the last time you did a time estimate, and were you right? or how off were you? Things like that to help the clients gauge the soft skills. And we could also submit it for peer review so that others in the network can rank their abilities in those areas. That was an idea for soft skills. Does it make sense? So we got another comment from Ashley, actually, which I'll read. Ashley says, outsourcing skill sets, like having to complete a Google programming course to get a certain star ranking on hard skills. Don't know if there would be any tests for soft skills. I've been through leadership simulators, and simulations really provide more insights than answers, because through answers, most interviewers just answer what they think the company wants to hear. That's just human nature, I think. So Orson says, yeah, it does make sense. And feel free to speak up, everyone. It's good to have all of you here. So
yeah, what I was saying was that what you said earlier it's fine, it's perfect. I think so. It's fine.
sounds good. Cool. So another thing that we want to think about is, why should we reinvent the wheel on the algorithms part? So I'll stop sharing and just we can talk about this. There are so many organizations out there that do algorithmic testing, Lead Code, HackerRank. How many are there? There's so many. There is there's so Test Gorilla. Okay, do any of you know other ones? You can say them out loud if you know any of them.
There is coding game.
Yeah, Codility. Anyone know others? So I have a list. Interviewing.io is one of them. HackerEarth, HackerRank, LeetCode. Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Workera.io.
Yes, absolutely. Pluralsight, TryHackMe, CodeChef, Joseph Katome says Coding Game. There's Kaggle, CoderByte, Front End Mentor, TestDome. There's really no point in us building another one. Exorcism, so many is what Ashley says. So many. So what is really the point in LD building another custom one? So one idea that we wanted to run by you is, what if we just had talent? Workera, says Ayomidi. So what if we just had talent pick their favorites, or we send out a list of all the top of these coding talents? Welcome. Nice to see you. Rian. Yeah. So we have so many options. We could just have talent. We could just have talent essentially work on whichever platform they like, do a coding challenge, and then upload that for peer review of how well they solved the problem, ranking them not just for correctness, but also for, yeah, so we got a thumbs up from Ashley. That's good. We could just have them peer review and rank each other. And just like we do the lifelong learning projects, you pick whatever learning resources you want. There's no dearth of those on the internet. And then present it for peer review. Same way for coding challenges, we could do the exact same thing. We could make them paid as well, and then we could surface them on our platform's profiles. So another thing that we wanted to work on was we noticed that a lot of people are making GitHub projects, posting them on our blog, but we're not seeing as many people post video tutorials. And so we wanted to encourage that. Maybe we might incentivize some people who decide to do blogs to make video tutorials instead. So we create diverse media on LD's YouTube. Did any people have any pushback on that idea or any ideas for that? For instance, do all of you
Yeah.
go ahead?
I have a product design YouTube channel where I teach mentor people on product design. I can also videos. Or would you like me to post the link to the channel on the LD?
Absolutely. What do you cover in that channel?
It's product design. So I'm a developer and also a product designer. So yeah, I do product design using Adobe XD UI UX. I teach people how to do certain things in UI UX, wireframe, prototyping, and from beginners to advanced. Yeah, that's basically what that channel is for. Yeah.
Solves a huge need, big market for that. What would you say is your primary differentiation from other design tutorials out there?
Okay, so for this channel, yeah, I actually have a Telegram community now of almost 500 designers. So on that community, I post the link to the community on every single video I upload. So when people have require assistance or need a better understanding of the videos they just watched, they can also contact me via the Telegram group, or if they post their questions on the YouTube comment section and they don't get an answer, they can also join the Telegram design group, which I created via the link, where they can post their questions and get responses from over 400 designers. And they'll definitely get a solution or an answer to the problems. So that way it makes it very interactive.
It sounds like the design of your design community is well designed. Yeah.
Sorry?
I said it sounds like the design of your design community is well designed.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, I'm also a developer actually. So product design is just one of the things I do as well, apart from programming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to paste the link to the channel on the LD. What's channel in the LD workspace should I paste it in?
Post in engineers. You can post in any of the skill design channels.
I'll post it in engineers now.
You could also maybe post in deals.
Or in skills.
Yeah.
Okay, skill resume tips. Okay, no problem.
Fantastic. Colway writes, would love to do a video tutorial. Thank you. Yeah, that sounds good. And Castro, I really like your background, the LD website in the back. That's very clever. How is that? How did you design that? How did you put that together?
I just went to the video settings and then I added a virtual background and I had a screenshot of the website, so I added it there.
Brilliant. Brings tears to the eye. Thanks, Ash. So now, what did we want to talk about? We should talk about the idea of what makes a person a professional. So I actually did a bunch of research to figure out that those categories were what makes a person professional, is that they not only know the syntax of the language, but also they know the design patterns and they know the DevOps tools, they know the IDEs and they know the continuous integration, they know the software engineering agile development process. These are what make a professional. The way I determined that was I actually surveyed a bunch of professionals as part of my research. And so if we want to present our talent as professionals, we need to be able to speak to those attributes. But one of the things that we also want to do is just think about what are some of the risks of verifying people are professionals So one way that Stack Overflow does it, and maybe you've been on Stack Overflow before, is they'll actually have a reputation system where you can upvote people, and the more reputation you have, the more your various upvotes and actions matter to an extent. So you have different permissions. So for ours, if you do a project or a demo that you want to get peer reviewed, you want the person peer reviewing you to be, for lack of a better word, more experienced or more professional than you at that stage, right? You don't want to be graded by somebody who doesn't know as much as you. So how do we actually model the peer review system based on that? How would you do it?
Okay, so what you're saying is this: we don't want a scenario in which, like for a peer-to-peer interview system, we don't want a scenario in which we are being interviewed by someone of lesser expertise or lesser specialties, right? Then maybe
Yeah.
the program can do the pairing. The pairing can be done based on on both parties' certifications. Yeah, you understand what I'm, yeah. So maybe it just tries to match the expertise of one party to the other, and if whoever is doing the interviewer, if his expertise are lesser than that of the person he's interviewing, then he's not going to be allocated to that particular to the other party. What do you feel? Maybe it's going to use the user's skill set to do the matching, rather than just pairing with any random person like it is on the other peer-to-peer platforms.
Right. I think that that's good to essentially route whoever reviews your project should have more skills in our database, more years of experience in the particular skills they're reviewing for than you. Now, or they might have been reviewed already. Now, one question we had was just on career growth. So when you come to LD, it's a professional thing that you're doing. You're coming to advance your career in a sense. You're getting income, but you're also getting experience that you can add to your resume. So one of the questions is, as we build out this comprehensive vetting, how do we make sure that it's actually helping your career goals? How is it helping advance your career? That was one question that I wanted to ask you. And how could we do it better so that it helps your career more? Do we want to, for instance, example, publish a certificate that LD verifies that you've done these things so that you'd be able to share that with anyone you want? Those kind of things. So we actually have a comment from Ashley that says official reviewers ranked approximately at the same skill level do the actual reviewing, but it also opens up to junior reviewers who can provide additional insights and be ranked as reviewers to improve their own rank towards official reviewers. I think juniors can still provide great insights. Sometimes lack of experience allows people to have different insights and not be set in their ways. That's true. And there's actually a research paper by a professor who I actually worked with called Chris Peach, and he did this study called Scalable peer review for Moocs, and this is the system that is actually employed on Coursera, and it involves multiple people peer reviewing. Don't actually have to have expertise. If you give them a proper rubric, they can be at the same level as the person being reviewed, and you can often get the same level of results. So it's good to consider. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, so the next topic I wanted to segue into, since, yeah, Orshan, go ahead. You're muted, or you're not audible.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying another thing I noticed on Stack Overflow was that there's this history of your career progression. I think if there was as an added to the profile, like when you pass these certifications with early Internet, or when you pass a peer review step or process, it gets added to your history, and it can be a public profile, like saying these are the technical achievements you made, and shows your skills in certain categories as you've outlined in that mock-up you presented earlier.
Yeah, I think that that's a good idea. I think that that makes sense. Any other comments on that? Cool. So in that case, then let's move on to the next topic and our last topic for the town hall, which will be around LD as an organization scaling. Oh, so there was one last comment from Ashley. So official LD certificates, video testimonials from LD clients for specific developers, in addition to written reviews, promotion of profiles for general career growth, official LD representation in coding contests like an LD team goes to compete, but serves as a great way for developers to meet other developers. So those are some other ideas that Ashley had that she put in the chat. So just to give you an idea of the scale of our organization, we're approaching almost 100 customers on our platform, and we have over 400 talent on our platform. We're not that small anymore, and thanks to all your feedback from all these town halls, this being the 9th town hall, we have grown considerably. And as we grow, we need to make sure that our organization doesn't depend on individuals. Like, for instance, I can't be running everything forever. Essentially, the organization has to run itself. If you look at any great organization, any company that's lasted over 100 years, like Coca-Cola, or any country that has lasted for more than a human lifetime, like say France, or say South Africa, for instance. There are different ways that people are able to maintain these entities without depending on one particular person. It's through roles, and it's through an organizational structure. And so that's one thing that I wanted to run by you right now. So that I want to put forth a few principles in order to introduce this conversation. And it's relevant to you because we want to understand from you, what stake do you want in LD, right? What eventually, as this organization scales and becomes bigger and bigger, maybe some of the talent should get credit, not just in terms of cash payment, but in terms of a stake in LD and things like that. So I want to put forward a proposal called LD roles and organizational structure for scale and speed. So this will enable any group in time to maintain or revive the LD model. The LD business should be able to run itself. It should not depend on any one person or resource. LD consists of LD talent and LG ventures, as well as its other assets and R&D endeavors. All the departments in our organization should be scalable and involve automation and delegation. Just as clients or talent may visit our website, ldtalent.org, to begin interacting with this platform, internal team members seeking to run LD should start at this level to understand the organization. We should understand that our most valuable resource is our people's time. And so we need to prioritize and optimize what each team member spends their time on while respecting their autonomy and freedom. So how do we create such a scalable organization where it's not just me sending Slack messages to run the show, but essentially it runs itself? So I read a lot on how Zapier does this, how GitLab does this, how other remote organizations like Buffer and Y Combinator startups and some research articles as well, how they do this. How do you scale a remote team? And so one of the things that I actually learned was you need to create a remote work culture. And so that's one of the reasons why I asked a lot of people to show their video, show up on the call, participate, is because if we're really going to do this, if we're going to make a scalable organization, scalable in terms of money, but also scalable in terms of impact on the world, we need to create a culture where we're able to produce impact. And so one of the things I wanted to bring up was how are we going to organize and structure our organization so that we can scale? And so we want, yes, to start thinking about things like, as Ashley says, thinking about incentivizing talent through a stake in the company. Maybe we will need to explore different leadership roles within LD. We need to explore different internal roles in terms of managing the organization. So it's not just me organizing it, it's everyone. It's not just Girja, our CTO, or Anisha, our designer, organizing this. It's a lot of people working together, scaling this organization together. That's what we're trying to do. And so I wanted to present a model actually of how this might look if we don't have any comments at this stage. So I'll pause for a second. I'll let you think of comments and then proceed. So just wait for 10 seconds. All right, so if we don't have further comments, I'd like to share my screen and share a little model, and you might recognize some of your names in this model actually. So I will share it now. So can you see my screen? If you could put the yes symbol and
Yes,
yeah, okay, I got thumbs up. Yeah, go ahead. So what we're trying to model here is a way our organization can create career pathways in LD and also scale our organization in terms of leadership. So we have a current set of leadership, but none of these roles, the reason why I put these as sticky marks is that no one person is going to be attached to any of these roles. The roles are defined as roles as part of an organization, right? Just like a country. So yeah, got a lot of yeses in chat. So glad you're able to see it. The roles, like for no one role is attached to an individual person. Right now, Girja is serving as our CTO. I am serving as the CTO. Anisha might be serving as our product officer. And we have an HR lead who is Rodora, who's actually in the Philippines right now. And she is serving as our HR lead. We are looking for a chief marketing officer. We have a marketer, Castro, who's on this call and who has a great background. We have Mohammed and Brian, Mohammed Rajab as one of the marketers, Brian Atori and Shem, who have filled the marketer role. We have engineers who are working internally on our organization, both part-time and full-time, including Mina Kamal, Timothy, Kumjud, Armstrong, Obua, Harshit, and we have so many different roles on our Kobina, and we have so many different roles in our organization that are being filled. But we notice that bigger organizations, they have a more clear organizational structure. That way they're able to define the roles. What does this role involve? They're able to delegate. This person is responsible for this aspect of LD. They're able to scale, saying that, you know, for instance, the CTO has authority to just hire a bunch of developers as needed for the goals that she has. Our CMO would have the authority to hire a bunch of marketing people based on the authority that they have, so that it's not all becoming dependent. And if one person goes away, the roles are well documented so another person can fill their shoes. So in this way, one of the things we realized was that why is our organization not moving as fast as possible? Maybe it's because we don't have a scalable organizational structure. And that's why I wanted to bring this idea forth with you all and get your feedback on how could we make this idea even better so that we could scale quickly, larger. Hi, Animesh. Nice to see you. Yeah.
Hey, I joined a bit late.
Uh,
Just trying
nice
to
to
catch
see
up.
you. Nice to see you. Yeah.
Thanks, thanks.
Like your ceiling. It's really cool. What do you want in terms of career pathways within LG? So some of you are working for clients, some of you are working for LD itself. And so what do talent want? Because we don't want to create, the reason I made this not top down is we don't want to create a hierarchy in the sense that there's somebody who's somebody's boss. We want to rather create it as roles, and individual people are filling those roles at individual periods of time. But anybody in LT could become the CTO or the CEO or the CPO or the CMO or a product manager or whatnot at any given point in time. There is fluid movement of people, but the roles stay the same. That way, that organization can last longer than the individual people. For instance, one of my worries is just, say I'm not there tomorrow, is LD going to still be there? Maybe the answer is no today, but after a few years, I would hope the answer is yes. So that's why we want to structure the organization, so it doesn't depend on one person. And so Ashley wrote, hard question you have posed, a challenge for many companies looking forward to moving to the next level. So just to link this to your particular incentives of getting a client and getting more work on the platform, if our organization is more scalable, then we can market more. And if we can market more, then we have more business on our platform.
Sorry, I didn't get the last question you asked. Sorry, I went offline for a bit.
No problem. So what we're saying is that we're trying to create an organizational structure so it doesn't depend on any one particular person running the company. So there's a bunch of roles defined and individual people are filling those roles. Like I'm filling the CEO role, but maybe tomorrow you might be filling the CEO role, whatnot, like that. And so do you have any ideas on how we can scale our organization using roles? So that right now it's not scalable. If I'm doing so many things, it's not going to be scalable. If we hire more people to do marketing, then it'll be more scalable. If we structure the organization intelligently, it'll be even more scalable. So the question is, do you have any feedback or ideas on this? Because eventually I won't have the ability to, or energy to do everything manually. At some point it has to scale. and the organization has to run itself.
Yeah, I would. Oh my God. Yeah. So I think, personally, I think for a start, people people could take temporary roles, right, to at least do the basic things, some of the basic tasks that we do, so that you do, like sending out messages, trying to explain, take somebody for a week or a month or whatever will be responsible for explaining to talent a certain query that they may have, in that way they get to know more about the organization. Then the other week you rotate it. Before, within 6 months, I think many people will have a strong understanding about what the values of the organizations are, even though we've read it. But by the time you do those tasks every day, you may even have better suggestions after doing them. So it can start from the small things. It doesn't have to start from the very big responsibilities. But I think starting small, talking to um, the people who do like the marketing, even if you are not even if you don't know whether you want to do it or not. But I think just getting that information could be helpful in even getting feedback. Yeah.
Got it. I think that makes sense. I think that starting small, starting with very specific roles on what to do, as they get into the rhythm of doing those things, they become more and more involved. Like, for instance, many of the people here today, they've attended town halls before, or they have gotten work on the platform. They've become used to each other on Slack. And so now it becomes more natural. And I think over time, it'll take time, especially in a remote work setting, but over time, we will all become more and more knowledge of each other, especially as the platform gets more business. So one of the things that has been brought up by one of our clients is just, have we gauged the commitment of our developers? What percentage of you are working full-time versus part-time through LD? That affects how much the organization matters to you, frankly, right? What's in it for you is a big question. And so I think that that's one thing we can consider. If you are making good income through LD, you'd obviously be more interested in the culture of LD than if not. So it's like chicken and the egg, right? We need a better culture to scale our organization to get more business, but we need more business in order to get more people interested in the culture of LD to participate more and such, and seek leadership positions. So leadership comes with things like increased salary. Leadership comes with things like equity in the company. How are we valuing equity in the company and such? Are you just seeing it as a gig to make some cash, or are we seeing it as a stake in something bigger, a stake in a fast growing platform that is taking a new perspective on talent around the world, incentivizing their lifelong learning and growth over time, incentivizing cross-cultural collaborations and future of work affordances and new ways of working. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, then what are ways we could think about compensating our talent beyond just cash? For instance, one of the things I wanted to measure was just, some of you have worked a few work sessions on LD. Some of you have worked a lot of work sessions on LD and made a lot of money on LD. Some of you have done a few blog projects on LD. Some of you have done a lot of marketing on LD. What if we start to quantify how much contribution each talent member has made on LD, and sort of come up with a metric of what percentage of the organization they have somewhat shaped? And then think about how we can create leadership roles within our organization. Think about creating appropriate compensation and quantifying it. So we really create a community where it's not this top-down type of, we have a couple people in the United States that are hiring freelancers around the world. Instead, we want to be like a network of people all over the world, a lot of people in South Asia, in Africa, running this network as an organization that is for instance, decentralized, for instance, able to run itself, for instance, able to compensate people in a meritocratic way rather than the way we've seen before, right? And you look at companies in for instance, India, many countries in Africa, they're family run and they don't share the equity with anyone. They're family run and they just hire the people, pay them money, and then those people keep working and then they leave. But then how does the leadership pass then? The leadership will pass where the CEO will make their son the CEO or their daughter the CEO, and it passes like that, and the wealth never moves hands. So my question is, how might we structure LD so that it's still able to run itself properly, right? It just doesn't devolve, but at the same time, we're able to share some of the growth across the organization. The way they do it in Silicon Valley is they'll give equity, but they also keep everybody in the same office. But how do we do that in a remote work setting where you have remote people all over the world? So we need to create affordances where we all trust each other, but at the same time, we're also sharing opportunities, wealth, leadership with each other completely online. This is the idea. So it's not, you all have a stake in this. It's also not an easy idea to solve. It's not an easy problem to solve. So maybe I'll start with a simpler question. What do you want out of LD? I mean, one that's obvious is earnings. Yeah, everyone wants to get a client and earn well on LD. Castro says growth. And Mohammed says we have to embrace the culture of LD as a whole if we want to scale up. Okay. Please speak up. Everyone speak up. Just tell us what you're feeling. Because if you speak up, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I would say being part of something that is long term is valuable to me because I feel I've always wanted to contribute something big to the world, regardless of how much money I make. You know, finance is cool, and not just LD, but any other thing. Genuinely, I believe being part of something bigger than me is fine. You know, something like when I look back, I can say that, wow, you know, this is what I left behind, you know. So I think that is that's what I would prefer. Yeah. So if LD will be structured and do great things, I think that's fine. I don't have to occupy any big role or something, but whatever role I am, even if as a talent, I think it's I'm sure I'll be able to do big projects that will make an impact around the world. Yeah.
I think that means a lot. Everyone making a contribution, understanding that they've made a big impact, maybe even showing on your profiles on physical artifacts what impact you've made. Those are good ideas. Udayan writes, more client projects, more technologies that match developers' profiles. So yeah, in a sense that as we scale, we need to make sure that every talent member, we understand their skill set really well and shape our marketing so that we bring in clients that meet their skill set, in addition to just telling developers to have the skill sets that clients want. Now, one thing that we got in terms of an idea also in chat is non-traditional benefits for leadership roles, like, for instance, subsidizing different affordances and thinking about their needs day to day, thinking about their lifestyle and such. One of the contributions, being able to contribute to the growth of the organization while I'm also growing myself. The big part is we've filtered for people who enjoy learning, so maybe quantifying that as well. Long-term job with a well-structured company, growth is my skill set and career, growth in my skill set and career. So I think one of the things we're seeing is a large demand, which makes sense, is just people want stable income. And so maybe we want to, so yeah, and Mohammed's seconds Ayamide. So it's this notion of stable income. And so obviously, like if I could stably provide income to every single one of LD, I certainly would. But the point is that we live in a capitalist structure of society. And so some people get clients, some people don't. The only thing that LD can do is actually help people who don't get clients by learning the right things and presenting their profile in the right way and improving the marketing and design of our platform. The only thing that, I mean, we could create a socialist structure, right? The people who are earning really like a lot of money on LD, they could be taxed, and the people who aren't earning as much money, we could create a socialist sort of system like that. But I'm not sure the people who are earning a lot of money on LD would like that. So animation laughs. So that is something that's also a consideration. So LD is something I was just thinking about this the other day. LD is neither capitalistic nor socialist. LD is one of the few things that are somewhere different from both. It's capitalist in that people are getting the clients and the clients are paying money, but it's socialist in that we are actually incentivizing that you're taking some of the profits from that part and paying talent to learn new things and improve themselves so that other talent can also get money. So it's, yeah, so Ashley's saying, yeah, sort of organize LD like a co-op, but we don't want, yeah, so I agreed that we want to create a structure where everyone can benefit. It's getting deep. It's getting politically deep here. It's not just a simple problem. Now, you can have hard incentives like getting a number of clients, a ticket to, in-person networking. So we've done an in-person network in India and Nepal, want to do one in Africa soon, in Lagos and Nairobi, and also in South Africa and Kampala. And so, we create more of a culture in that way. But I think that overall, I think that we have a lot of work to do to make sure that the talent really benefit from the growth of the platform. It's not something that you can easily solve right here. I mean, as Samson was saying, it's just, you want to be part of something meaningful, but as Muhammad was saying, you also need to be able to provide for the income of the people. When you're able to provide for the income of people, then we'll have a lot more power as an organization, and then we'll be able to scale up faster. So we'll keep working on it, and we'll take all your ideas into consideration and try to structure and scale our organization to meet your needs.
Yeah, I think it's very important, to understand that for anything, for me, I've always believed in the fact that to get anything really, really worth it, I need to really sacrifice or work really, really hard for it. I don't like, so it's an opportunity that we are in the exception of LD talent. And I think it creates a lot of opportunity for everybody here, to be honest. If LD talent was really big, it would be very difficult for us to get the kind of opportunity that we might get in the short term, even the next 1 month or 2 months. So I think it's all, in as much as some people may not have clients right now or paying clients right now, but I think there should also be joy in the hope that you are in an organization that is just starting out, and you'll be able to benefit a lot of things if you put in the hard work on your own personal self and help the company grow. I think that is really important because I've benefited from that along multiple times in my career, so I can understand how important that is, because coming to a company that's already established and stuff is a bit more difficult to climb up.
I think that makes sense. We have seen tremendous growth over the last year. We've seen over 100. I think around half our developers and our talent in our network has gotten paid opportunities at this stage. But just because a half has doesn't mean we're done, because a half hasn't, right? Just because LD has employed so many people doesn't mean that there aren't other people looking for opportunities on LD, and it takes a few weeks, it takes a few months sometimes. One of the other things we're trying to do is just for the people who really want it, for the people who are doing those lifelong learning projects, and for the people who are really putting in the effort, we want to make sure that they get that client opportunity, they get that, or if not, they get that opportunity within LD. We actually hired a number of developers recently within LD itself for Django development. We are always developing things in Django to improve our platform, in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and jQuery on the front end. We have a lot of SEO work to do on our platform. And so it actually means a lot, because I make a note for the people who attend these town halls, for the people who participate. I try to make a note and make sure that those are the people that we hire internally on LD as well, and who will promote through our leadership as well. So if I ever forget, remind me that you contributed a lot in our town halls to our ideas. And if you have Django or jQuery in your skill set, then reach out to me when I'm looking, and or our CTO when she's looking, and say, I can help out. I'd like to move up in the engineering team within LD, and we will keep that in mind. As I showed you that diagram today, we want to start creating a leadership within our organization, so it works for everyone. All right, well, thank you. Have a great night.
Likewise, thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you
care.
very much.
We'll conclude
Take
our
care.
town hall. All right. Well, without further ado, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.